Today, we're diving into the world of air conditioning units to show you how to tackle a common issue: replacing the fan motor bearing. Whether you're a seasoned handyman or a newbie looking to save some bucks on repairs, just stick around because we've got all the tips and tricks you need to breeze through this project. So grab your tools and let's get those AC units back in action. As you can see, my air conditioner unit is very noisy and squealing. This was installed 5 years ago and now the bearing had failed and needs to be replaced to avoid damaging the motor eventually. It's not so comfortable, especially at night, with the noise level is ranging from 45 to 70 decibels, which can also damage your hearing in the long run. This is a Samsung split type air condition unit with 1 horsepower capacity or 8,000 BTU. Here are the complete specs. You have a different brand, you say? Don't worry, because most brands have similar parts and construction. Parts may differ, but the same concept and procedure applies. Now let's start with the removal of the fan and motor. If you are experienced or familiar with this stage, then please jump directly to the replacement if motor bearing chapter. Now start by powering off the AC unit. For your safety, make sure to unplug the power supply cable. If inaccessible, trip off the AC breaker. Let's start with the bottom screws and remove the bottom cover. Next, remove the air filter. Next, remove the front cover. Next, remove the louver. Start removing in the middle, then detach sides lastly. Next, remove the 2 bottom screws and then detach the front panel assembly. Look out for any electrical connections. They can be easily removed with a quick connector. Next is the removal of the fan. First, remove the 2 securing screws of the evaporator. This is normally located on the non-driving side of the unit. Lift the evaporator just enough to free and detach the grill assembly. To remove the other end of the grill and drain assembly, just push and twist down at the same time. Caution not to lift the evaporator too much to avoid damaging any refrigerant piping on the other side. Place back the other end of the fan to free later. Remove the drain and grill assembly on the drive side. Remove the 3 screws of the motor securing housing. Remove motor cover housing. Disconnect the motor cable from the controller unit. Loosen the screw for the fan motor shaft. Then remove the non-drive side of the fan, then gently tilt out and pull out the fan away from the motor shaft. Pull out the motor. Now let's proceed with the dismantling of the motor bearings. As you can see, the bearing is hard and noisy. It's just a matter of time before it breaks down and eventually damages the motor through overload and burning. First, remove the rubber buffers on both sides. Take out the shaft circlip using a pliers. This is a brushless DC motor, and the model is RD300-1025BA. You can order it online on a price range of 50 to 100 USD, while the bearings cost only 5 to 10 USD. The challenging part of this process is the opening of the motor itself. This is unlike the older versions that can be easily opened. If your AC is of the inverter type, then expect some challenges. I have tried prying the cover gently with a small screwdriver, but failed. So I have to resort with brute force using a hammer. But before proceeding, be sure to mark the orientation of the cover to the body. It will make it easier for assembly later. Keep hammering until you see a gap. make sure to balance gaps on all sides. Please note that the motor casing is glued to the metal cover, so there will be some breakage. The motor has 2 bearings, and as you can see, unlike the conventional AC fan motors, this motor has control board integrated and needs to be taken out first in order to pull out the other bearing. To do this, just simply desolder the 3 contacts with the motor using a soldering iron and desolder pump. Once control board is free, pull out the rotor assembly. This is a magnet type, so there will be a bit of resistance when pulling out. For smoother removal of the bearings, clean and remove the rust on the shaft using a sandpaper. On my AC type, I will be using number 608 bearing with the ZZ type, which means that it has a double metal shielding. This 608 bearing is commonly used on fan motors, even for other AC brands. Of course, to be sure, simply check the marking on your bearings, and if possible, prepare the new bearings before dismantling the motor. To easily remove the bearings, use a bearing puller such as this if you have one. But I don't have one, so I will be using a hammer, screwdriver, pliers, and a wooden plank and force it out manually. First, position the pliers with a loose grip under the bearing resting on a wooden plank and start hammering the shaft. Caution with the extra circlip underneath the bearing. Remove it firsted if you are able to. Also, try to use a plastic hammer to avoid mushroom head formation on the shaft ends. You cannot remove the bearings if this happens. Push the shaft with a screwdriver with hammer. Beware not to drop the rotor. I am using a table rubber mat. Do the same process on the other bearing. Take note of the distance measurements because there is a chance the magnet position will change later. Now let's proceed with the installation of the new bearings. Fit the circlip first, place the new bearing in the table and insert the shaft and start hammering until the circlip is reached. Fit the rotor to the motor body. Make sure it is clear of debris. Double check that the magnet height is the same as before the disassembly. Install the motor control board by soldering. After soldering, turn rotor and check that it is not hitting the board. Install the other bearing using a pliers and hammer. This will be safer to install both bearings before soldering the board. Apply super glue before closing motor. Match position markers. And hammer gently and equally. Fit the rubber buffers and the last circlip, and now we can proceed installing back the fan and motor assembly. To assemble the AC, do everything in reverse. Set the fan in position and install the motor. Insert the motor shaft to the fan slot with the loose screw. On the non-drive side of the fan, install the fan bushing in place. Install the motor frame cover and tighten the 3 screws. Next is to tighten the fan motor shaft screw. Turn and check fan for tightness and free rotation. Connect motor wiring to the AC control board. Install and secure grill and drain assembly. Secure all cables and the control box. Tighten the 2 screws of the evaporator. Install the front cover along with the power connector. Tighten the 2 bottom screws. Install the louver, start on the both ends, and fit lastly in the middle. Fit the air suction filter, fit the bottom cover, and tighten 2 screws. Plug in the power cable. Now, it's time to power on the AC unit and do a test run. And now my AC is back to its original sound, peaceful and quiet. Thanks a lot for watching, and if you found value on my video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time. And for more exciting and easy to understand tutorials, please visit and check out my channel.